A new conspiracy theory says that Donald Trump will be reinstated as president in August. Now officials fear that it could spark actual violence. It's not funny. It's not absurd. It could be dangerous. Next, we're going to speak to the congresswoman who is trying to fight this. Let's go back to Capitol Hill. We're just hours from now. The House will vote on a committee to investigate the January 6th Capitol riot, and it cannot come soon enough. With the Department of Homeland Security now worried about a conspiracy theory that former President Trump will magically become president again in August. Joining me now, Michigan Democratic Congresswoman Elissa Slotkin. She's a member of the Homeland Security Committee and a former CIA analyst. Congresswoman, you were briefed about this theory, and this is worrisome. 3 in 10 Republicans actually believe that Trump could be back living in the White House in August. Like, we could laugh about it, but it's not funny, especially when we think about places like your home state where you had extremists plot to kidnap the governor. How threatening are these people and these theories?
Well, listen, I mean, I don't think conspiracy theories are ever good, and we saw on January 6th that you can have a conspiracy theory that gets amplified and people act on it, and they act violently on it. You know, we're watching this very closely. Obviously, after January 6th, we take everything seriously. So we did have a brief last week, and I did ask the question about, you know, are we seeing the potential threat of organization or violence ahead of an August, you know, conspiracy theory date? You know, the department didn't see anything, pledged to keep watching it, and I think it's just something we're all on edge about because of what happened on the 6th.
Is DHS now doing a good job at rooting out the disinformation that causes these type of threats?
Well, I think it's important to understand what DHS is doing and isn't doing. No, they're not rooting out misinformation because we have major issues with the First Amendment and people's right to freedom of speech. It's not the Department of Homeland Security's responsibility to root out things like misinformation. Their job is to protect the homeland and to make sure that anyone becoming violent is stopped ahead of time. So they're focusing on the folks who translate those conspiracy theories into violent plots. That's what they're focused on. We have a much bigger societal issue when it comes to misinformation and disinformation. We have some legislation that we're looking at, some education that needs to happen on digital literacy, but this is the conundrum. You can't just go to someone and tell them they're not allowed to talk about these theories, even if we find them egregious.
But it's not just someone. You've got lawmakers in the middle of this. Your own colleague, Paul Gosar, he was featured on an invite for a white nationalist group's fundraiser. He himself spread lies about election fraud more than any other Republicans did. How do you root out extremism when it's actually in Congress?
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean, those kinds of things are disgusting. And, you know, we all work together and live together here and see each other, and it's made for some pretty tense environments here on Capitol Hill. Everyone has the responsibility to be a leader and send the right message, and obviously I don't think those are the right messages. We have taken action. You know, when some people have said certain things, they've been removed from their committees. There are some things that we can do, but it's obvious that we're struggling with this, right? We're struggling with this and how this is playing out in the U.S. Congress, and I'll admit it's difficult for me as well. There's freedom of speech and there's egregious behavior, and it's hard to rack and stack them both.
Committee removals, like, let's be honest, who cares?
Well, they care, and their party cares. And to be honest with you, I open the question for debate. What is the responsibility to, when someone is, if they're threatening violence, that's a red line. If they're threatening violence, that is it. That is when your freedom of speech ends and you are into a very different category of behavior. But short of that, it's obvious that across the country we're struggling with this. And we can, you know, the social media companies are trying to do something. They've gotten better at the spread of this stuff or clamping down on the spread of this stuff. But you're right. I mean, it's a very difficult to listen to a peer say those things. My tools against that person are very limited.
Regulation would certainly change the behavior of those social media companies.